Good morning. This is J Trucker 717, and you are listening to J Trucker 717 Broadcasting. Okay, what is going on today? President of the largest freight broker group to step down in the wake of trucker protests. Okay, let's take a look at this article. The head of the largest freight broker group in the U.S. will leave the association after more than 2 decades. On June 10th, the Transportation Intermediate Association, known as TIA, announced that Robert Voltman, who will resign as the organizational president and CEO at the end of September 2020. Okay, the announcement that Voltman will step down comes after high-profile nationwide protests during which truckers railed against cheap freight and said the brokers were to blame for plummeting rates. For 3 weeks, a group of truckers protested on the Constitution Avenue on Washington, D.C. to raise awareness that the brokers' issues in lower rates. This message made it clear way all the way to President Trump, who tweeted in support of truckers and went so far as to say truckers are being price gouged. The Washington, D.C. protest activities ended shortly after truckers representatives Mike Landons and Sergey C.J. Carmen met with the FMCSA's Jim Mullen and White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows at the White House and asked for brokers' transparency. All right, so we all, on our broadcast, we did talk about how the truckers were honking their horns on Washington, D.C.'s lawn and protesting the lower freight rates. And apparently this president of the TIA is saying that they're not price gouging, that there's no price gouging going on. And President Trump tweeted that he thinks it is price gouging going on. And this caused for a little controversy and the resignation of the president of the TIA. But let's listen to a quick broadcast on how he defined and what he think the reason for the lower rates was. Let's take a look at this clip.
Hi, I'm Bob Voltman, President and CEO of the Transportation Intermediaries Association. And there's a lot being said about truck rates and brokers these days. Most of it isn't true. Brokers don't set prices, the market does. Right or wrong, we shut down a $22 trillion economy overnight. We stopped shipping much of anything except food, paper products, and the things we needed to hunker down at home. The latest GDP numbers bear this out, showing that the U.S. economy contracted almost 14% in March. When there are too many trucks chasing too few loads, rates go down. And since mid-March, rates have plummeted. No one is getting pre-virus rates like some snake oil salesman would have you believe. The trucking marketplace is huge, fractured, and incredibly transparent. Shippers, like all buyers, want to get the lowest price possible. They know that there is not enough freight to fill all the trucks. Shippers and brokers offer rates to probe the market. Shippers do it to brokers, brokers do it to carriers. So who does set the going rate? Like it or not, it's the motor carriers that accept it. If carriers don't accept a rate, both shippers and brokers will offer higher rates until the load is accepted. That's the free market economy that allows owner-operators, small carriers, and small brokers to operate. When the economy rebounds later this year, the same economy will result in rates skyrocketing, and it will be the shippers complaining. So what about broker margins? Well, according to the most recent TIA 3PL market report, the average margin is 16%. That means if the shipper pays $1,000 for a load, the broker keeps $160 or 16%. To cover their cost in manning a sales force to get the load and find the carrier, their investment in technology to manage the shipper's load, and their profit. The carrier gets $840, an 84% gross margin, to cover their cost of equipment, maintenance, and profit. The motor carrier gives up that $160 so they don't have to have their own sales force and their own investment in technology to manage the shipper's load. Brokers understand that the carrier has the investment in equipment and the tough job of driving the truck. By taking a percentage of the load, brokers are incented to find the best loads possible. Because they don't get paid if they don't move the loads, brokers are also incented to treat the carrier right. There's a yin and a yang between the brokers and the carriers. Neither can survive without the other. Carriers have a choice whether to accept a load or not. Carriers have a choice in which brokers they work with. The TIA logo is your assurance that you've made the right choice. Thank you.
Right, so we took a look at the clip and his answer to the lower rates. Basically, I see why he resigned. Because I think there was some price gouging. I can agree with the President of the United States, Donald Trump, when he said that the truckers are being price gouged. With the actual, it's kind of like, when I went to business school, and, I got my bachelor's in business administration and my master's in business administration, MBA degree. One of the things is called price and demand. And when there's a high demand for products, prices tend to go up. And what I think the Truckers Associations were saying, hey, if price and demand, if they're requiring us, this toilet paper and all this stuff is in high demand, I'm sure they're paying a higher price to get this delivered. And where's the money going? The rates are getting worse, but the demand is getting higher. And the NBA says when one doesn't balance out, then there's a problem. And that's what they're saying. I totally disagree with his remarks on there. I know one of the things he was saying in the article is that brokers get 16% of the freight. And that's basically when I'm not talking about the cost of the freight. I'm talking about what it costs to deliver the freight from the shipper, to the person that's buying the product, receiver. So 16%. In the business world, when you're investing money, and I kind of compare that to that, when you're like investing money into something, if I'm getting 16%, I'm dancing on the tables. That's a good rate. So when I look at what brokers are getting off of the cost to deliver a freight, and then what they're actually doing, brokers are basically going to the shipper and they're saying, hey, we will get this shipped from you. And they're going to have to call a trucking company. They may have to call an owner-operator, but they're going to have to, work with that person to make sure it gets there on time and things of that nature. But brokers right now to me, I don't see them doing a lot for the freight to manage 16% of the cost of the freight. 16% goes to them. And the first thing I'm thinking is, what are they doing? Because if you look at it, the trucking company pretty much holds a big responsibility. I mean, if I call Snyder's going to manage and make sure that product gets from point A to point B. So there's not a lot of calling back and forth to get that in there. Snyder has his own organization, his own administration that's going to make sure that freight gets from point A to point B. Matter of fact, if I was a shipper, I don't see the need of calling a broker. I mean, by law, you probably have to call a broker, but I'm like, I could call Snyder National and say, hey, can you deliver this freight? And Snyder would make sure it gets there on time. Only thing I would have to do is call Snyder and say, hey, where's my freight? And they'll be like, oh, here it is, and it's on its way. So I'm like, when I think of the broker, I'm like, what are they actually doing now? They said that the trucking organization gets 84% and the broker gets 16%. I'm like, you can merge the broker and the actual trucking company and get rid of that 16%. That should go to the truck driver. Again, at the end of the day, you have a shipper who's shipping the product. You have a receiver who wants the product, and there's a cost generated to ship that product. Now, there's in between people. There's the broker who's getting 16%. And their reason they say they're getting 16% is to make sure the product gets there. As a truck driver, an experienced truck driver who's been driving for 16, 20, 30 years, the first thing they're like, okay, when I take a product, I get it there, So what are the broker doing again? Making sure it gets there. And then you got the trucking company. And if I call Snyder National, they're like, yeah, if you tell me you need to deliver by a certain time, it's going to get there at that time. So again, the broker is saying they're making sure it's getting there on time. I'm like, something's not right there. I think the trucking company and the brokerage service should be one thing. Every trucking company should have their own brokerage where they broker their own freight. They shouldn't be taking an extra 16% off of the freight and then not giving the truck drivers anything. So at the end of the day, what the truck driver is complaining about, you're talking about a broker, a trucking company, and then they're at the bottom end and they're not seeing any benefit. And like I said previously, price and demand. Obviously, a lot of these companies, these shippers, are not paying the same rate they're paying before the coronavirus hits, because price and demand says the demand for that product is higher, so the cost to ship that product is going to be probably higher. And truckers are saying, we didn't see any of that increase at all. So I see what they're complaining about, and I'm sorry, I see why he resigned, because I don't agree with anything he's saying about that. Okay, let's move on. I kind of beat a dead horse on that one. All right, what else is going on? 2 trucks and train collide with both driver escape injury. 2 truck and train collisions occurred yesterday. Both truck drivers were able to escape the injury. The first collision occurred on Ethiopia, Washington, Wednesday, June 10th. According to Franklin Sheriff's Office, the driver was not injured. The driver was able to exit the truck before the train struck. Oh my gosh. So apparently the truck actually probably quit on the tracks and got hit. Second collision occurred in San Joaquin County, California on Wednesday, according to Escalon Police Department. BNSFA, which is basically a transportation agency for shipping freight on a train. Train struck a truck that was hauling cattle on the there was 70 cows on the truck. Only 10 to 12 survived the impact. The cattle was being transferred from Hawaii. The driver of the truck was not injured. Okay, so these are 2 separate incidents of trucks running into trains. So again, we know all the procedure for when you go across train track. You cannot stop, shift, or when you're going across the train track. And apparently this is a crash that happened because I think the truck probably stalled on the tracks. Let's take a look at this clip. Okay, this is, you can see at the top where the truck is has hit the train. And again, you can see the trailer, how it's been completely at the bottom lower left, on the left hand side, how the trailer's been completely pinned down. And at the lower right side, you can see the actual train. Doesn't look like the train was damaged much at all. But let's take a look at the clip of this.
A freight train partially derailed today in San Joaquin County after it hit a truck carrying dozens of cattle. According to the Escalon Police Department, the crash happened this afternoon. BNSF Railway Company says the freight train was one of their own and the crash is now being investigated.
To see that these animals traveled literally from Hawaii to this point in time and so many animals died, it's just hard to imagine the amount of stress and suffering that they had experienced all along the way. And for their lives to end so tragically, it's really beyond comprehension.
Out of the roughly 70 cattle that were on the truck, BNSF believes about a dozen or less survived the crash. The company says no one on the cattle truck or train were hurt.
Okay, that was a very bad accident. Glad they're safe. Okay, what else is going on? Video shows exactly why you do not team drive. Again, team driving is a difficult thing. I remember when I started truck driving, the 3 weeks with my trainer, where you had a trainer with you the whole time, it was a very difficult time to get through. Being in a truck with another person, you have to be really close. But let's take a quick look at this clip and two team drivers that things didn't go too well. Let's take a look at this clip.
Isso, bate mais na cara dele. Isso. Aí.
Ele vai cortar o pescoço dele.
Deixa os dois se matar. Aí. Vai lá, beijo na boca agora. Aí. Não, agora vai... Meu Senhor, eu quero ver porrada.
Desculpa, ele não vem pra cá.
Vem pra cá. Deixa eu vir pra cá.
Okay, yeah, fist fight, an argument, they're not team driving anymore. I used to have a friend, you know, because, you know, in your truck, you always have that extra bed on top. And I always said, hey, you're gonna get, he says, nope. He said, that bunk is storage. No one's riding with me. It's very difficult to do team driving or have someone else in the... I think there's times when you can do it, and I'm not saying it's impossible. There's team drivers all across the U.S., but it's a very difficult thing. So we see that in this situation. All right, what else is going on? New York Police Department has announced they will amp up patrols as part of a special enforcement effort starting this week. Thursday, June 11th through June 17th, the New York State Police will be conducting an enforcement effort dubbed Speed Week. Troopers will be patrolling looking for aggressive driving behaviors in both passenger and commercial vehicles. So if you're going up through New York, they're having Speed Week up there, and they're going to have extra patrols. So be safe. Watch your speed up in towards New York, because they're having Speed Week from the 11th to the 17th of this week. All right, what else is going on? All right, a lot of you guys have heard me talk about Nikola. It's a hydro fuel truck, zero emissions, cheaper fuel, and the president of Nikola One, and if I can remember his name here, I'll see, it should be somewhere in the article. Let's take a look at what this article says. A number of recent weeks in the trucking industry indicates that conditions may slowly begin to normalize in the coming weeks after the coronavirus pandemic 2020 is shaping up to be much tougher than experts suspected. Freightways Outbound Tender Rejection Index, which measures the trucking industry during this coronavirus, the freight and what's going on, which, okay, it says rejecting loads and offering by shippers reached 5.29% in June after bottoming out to the lowest point in the index history. So basically what they're saying in this article, that trucking is starting to normalize and get back to it. And when it does, when this coronavirus ends, freight is going to be high in demand. They're going to have to fill those shelves up. So that's what they're saying in this article. And Nikola One is talking about the different, how trucking is changed. It's kind of like the leader in the industry. Like I said, it's a 0% hydro fuel truck We've had a number of different articles on this truck. Let's see what the president is saying on this situation. Take a look at this clip real quick.
Welcome back. The future of trucking. Nikola, which has been developing electric and hydrogen fuel-based semi-trucks, hit the NASDAQ yesterday. It is poised to produce its first commercial vehicle, the Tre, in Europe next year. Joining me right now is the founder and executive chairman of the Nikola Corporation, Trevor Milton. And Trevor, it's great to have you this morning. Thanks very much for joining us. Congratulations on the public debut yesterday. That has to be a great part of your journey. How does it feel now to be running a public company?
Oh my gosh, it's crazy. My whole life was leading up to, that moment. We listed on the NASDAQ yesterday. And today is really we closed the NASDAQ bell yesterday, so today's an exciting day, and we're listed now as NKLA. And I loved your previous segment because it's all about manufacturing and all about artificial intelligence along with engineering. It's just awesome. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about that. AI and the future of jobs. We want to know where the jobs will be in the future. During my documentary on artificial intelligence last year, I discussed how advanced technology innovates everything from fast food to trucking to tracking wildfires. Ford CEO Jim Hackett and Peter Thiel talked to me about how things like new vehicles will affect the jobs market. Here's what they said. Watch this.
The vehicle will replace some kind of jobs that drivers are required to do today, but it's going to create so many new opportunities because of its expansive effect on the economy.
Kai-Fu Lee says 40% of jobs could go away in the next decade.
Well, I'll believe it when I see it, I guess, because it's not yet showing up in any of the numbers. The thing to understand is most jobs are not repetitive.
So what about that, Trevor? Where will the jobs of the future be?
Well, I think it's cool because Nikola's really the leader in electrification when it comes to zero emission semi trucks. We have a factory that is coming online in Europe right now in Ulm, Germany, and we're the first company in the world with a full factory dedicated to zero emission semi trucks. That was pretty cool. So our trucks come out in full production next year, and these trucks are actually built for complete level 4 and 5 autonomy compatibility, which means, people are like, hey, are this going to replace all the drivers? And what a lot of people don't know is on the freeways, yes, it'll replace the drivers on the freeways. But what they don't know is you still need all those loads driven into the cities from the hubs and also delivered to the distribution centers. So rather than taking these people away from their families and they're on the road for 3 weeks at a time, they now will actually be making more money as a driver by being able to stay home with their kids and their families and making 20 or 30 trips into the city every day with their big semi truck, rather than just going across country. So AI definitely changes things with all the new autonomy, where ultimately no one's driving the truck on the freeways.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I learned during my reporting for the AI special is that trucking is one of the most dangerous jobs. First of all, you're in the truck for hours on end. You just said you're there for a three-week period, nonstop. You're pulling in at truck stops, eating badly, sleeping when you have a moment to do so for an hour. Then you go back on the road. So how do you think this shift toward more advanced technology is going to affect trucking in general? You say, you're still going to need certain jobs, but do you need to have everybody driverless in order to have one driverless truck? In other words, can you have some driverless trucks on the road, on the freeway, and without everybody being driverless? That's what I'm not understanding. Don't you need the infrastructure to complement driverless trucking?
Yeah, it'll just take a little bit of time, right? So all of ours, the way our network works, and this is how the rest of America is going to go, is these hubs between major cities are going to be autonomous. You'll still have non-autonomous trucks driving out there for probably the next 10 to 15 years, but ultimately it'll become too expensive to drive with drivers between major cities. That's where the autonomous really makes sense. Then the drivers will be able to, like you said, they'll be able to stay home with their family, eat healthy, go to the kids' recitals, go to their baseball games or whatever, and then they just go from the hub into the city, and they actually make more money doing that than they do driving on the freeway. So, yeah, it's changing really fast right now, and Nikola's at the front of that.
Really fascinating stuff. Trevor, great to talk with you. We'll check back and to check in how things are going. Trevor Milton joining us there from Nikola. Good to see you, sir. We'll be right back.
All right, that was a video from Nikola One. Again, the truck that I talked about a lot, and that was Trevor Milton is his name. He's the CEO of Nikola. They have went public, and one of the things, if you're ever interested in buying stock, it's a good company to invest in because I think they're going to change trucking in a lot of ways. I know once they went public, in one day, their stock went up 22%. That is remarkable for a new company coming into being publicly traded for the first time. It also caused them to raise $400 million by going public. Again, I talked about how the fact that as a new corporation starting out, you only have a limited funds you can get through investors and different things. When you actually want to mass produce, it's going to cause it's going to create a demand for a lot of money to manufacture, like Ford Motors or General Motors or those type of corporations. So you're going to need a lot of funding. And usually what corporations have to do is they have to really realize that, after they can't get any more money from investors, it's time to go public and make some money so that you can actually make this a production type corporation. And that's what you see Nikola going on. Now they talked a little bit about autonomous trucking. Autonomous trucking is not going to happen anytime soon. And most theorists, if you looked at I've looked at a lot of articles on this. Autonomous trucking is never going to be a situation where there's not going to be any truck drivers in the trucks. I disagree with Trevor Milton in this situation. You're not going to see autonomous trucks running down the freeway with no truck driver in there. There's too many things that can go wrong. And, as a previous truck driver, and probably some of you guys realize, been driving for 20 or 30 years, the different things that can go wrong when you're driving freight from one place to another. And just a complete, your truck starts, you see lights going everywhere and things start not working on you, you get very nervous in that truck. And it's your responsibility to make sure that truck is safe when you're out there in the freeway. I just don't trust that to a computer. And the only thing I think autonomous trucks are going to do is make the long haul a lot easier. You may see freight drop a little bit from long haul because of autonomous trucking, but you're never going to see a situation where a truck is going to be driving down the freeway and nobody's going to be in it. I just don't trust that to a computer. Like I always joke about it with my friends. The last thing you want to do is be driving down the freeway. You're in West Virginia and you see this truck just wailing down the freeway. Autonomous truck then lost its signal. Runaway truck, runaway truck. That's not a good situation. I'm sorry. I do not trust that. I will be the first one to say I'm against that. But like I said, you're going to see autonomous trucking make long-haul trucking a lot easier. It's going to be just like your cruise control. Instead of having cruise control, you're going to have the ability to take your hands off the steering wheel. And in situations where you're driving on flat roads down in California and you're just, just nothing but highway, not a lot of traffic, you're going to see that autonomous trucking. Someone's going to have autonomous trucking and just relax. And, you can't go to sleep, of course. You still need to be in control of that truck in case something happens. So you're going to see a lot of change in that. Again, short haul trucking, electric trucks are going to change the way we do business. They call it the last mile of trucking is what I called it. So that's what you see. I think Nikola One is doing a good job, and it's going to be one of those truckings that once hydrofuel comes on, it's going to create a big niche in the long haul trucking. I don't see it really benefiting in short haul, the last mile. You can use autonomous trucks in the last mile, but electric trucks will do just as well. But I think what you're going to see a lot of times in regional trucking, where you're going to a certain region, you're going to see Nikola 1 used a lot in that because of the hydro fuel and the cheaper fuel in that. So that's what you're going to see. Okay, what else is going on? What else is going on? I think that is basically it for this broadcast. Again, we're going to take a weather break so you guys can take a look at the weather break, and we will sign off after that. Again, this is Trucker 717, and you listen to Trucker 717 Broadcasting. Please like, share, and subscribe to the broadcast so we can keep going. And like I said, no freight is worth your life. Be safe out there. Trucker 717 out.
Get a look at your national forecast over the next couple of days. It'll be a rainy day along the eastern seaboard on Thursday. A couple of thunderstorms, but we're not expecting much as far as severe weather goes. The rest of the country, for the most part, really just clears out nicely. I know we've had a lot of active weather over the last several days. How about close to 90 in Oklahoma City with sunshine? Chicago in the low 80s with sunshine as well. Friday, we clear out in the northeast. The southeast will still have a couple of showers and storms around, but again, pretty spotty and mostly along the coast. We'll also start to see some rain moving into the Pacific Northwest on Friday, but Denver, a beautiful day up close to 90 with sunshine. Kansas City up around 90 as well with sunshine. And St. Louis will be in the mid-80s on Saturday with lots of sunshine once again. Look at the middle of the country, just beautiful. A couple of spotty thunderstorms in Denver, very hit or miss on Saturday, and still some lingering showers in the southeast.